Matthew chapter 11. I didn't get very far last time with a, a very wonderful invitation and promise from Jesus in chapter 11, verse 28. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Talked a lot about weary and burdened, but I didn't say anything about I will give you rest. I think, well, I've read in a number of places from a number of sources that America is a sleep deprived group of people. We don't get enough sleep, and so everything from job performance down to satisfaction with life is impacted by the fact that we are sleep deprived. I know what that's like, and I don't like it. I know what it's like to go to bed at a normal, reasonable bedtime and wake up the next morning and think, wait a minute, I think I slept, I went to bed, and so, but you wake up tired, you go to bed tired and you wake up tired. Anybody ever have that happen? Yeah, I'm not the only one. We are an unrested group of people, generally speaking. I always envy those guys that would, every once in a while talking about, the sleep patterns and that stuff. And they go, oh man, the minute my head hits the pillow, I'm out. And I'm envious because it takes me forever to get to sleep. And so, okay, enough of that. Come to me, you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. There's a kind of restlessness that most people, I'd say at one point in time, all of us have experienced, where we are both weary and burdened. Weariness is basically remedied by rest and inactivity. When you're weary, you need to take a nap. Jesus took naps. This morning I was reading from Mark, where they're crossing the Jordan or the Sea of Galilee, and Jesus is asleep in the stern of the boat. He's napping, and the seas go wild. So Jesus napped. I mean, it's not a bad thing to do when you're weary. But there is this idea of burdened. Well, that's different than just weary. And the rest that we need from the burden that we might have, burdens in the plural, because everybody's got more than one, well, that's a different kind of rest. It's a spiritual, it's a soul level rest. And it achieves peace. Jesus says, come to me and I will give you rest. What an interesting concept. I wonder, I just don't think that's happening very often in the people around me and in my own life. Maybe it's because I'm in charge of my life. I will take care of this weariness and this burden thing. I don't need give me rest. Don't forget, we have real limitations, and And we need the rest that only Jesus can give us. Okay, and then after he talks about rest, talks about a yoke. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I'm gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Pardon me. The word picture of a yoke means virtually nothing to people in the 21st century. I've seen a yoke in Iowa in Amish country. It was hung up on a wall. Unless you've been to a third world country, I venture to say, you have never seen oxen in a yoke pulling a plow. But this was a daily thing for the people Jesus was talking about. And their entire economic system was built around agriculture. It was far from our system, that agriculture is just one piece of a vast tapestry of economic things. Agriculture was vast and everything else was small in Jesus' day. People knew what a yoke was, and a farmer knew that you fitted a yoke to the oxen who would be in the yoke, because if the fit was not right, the oxen would, first of all, it's not going to be able to pull at its full strength, and secondly, if you leave an ox in the wrong kind of yoke, it will harm the ox. So what Jesus is saying is, he has a yoke, and he invites us to take his yoke upon us. I often resist his yoke because it's not convenient. It's not fun always. The whole idea of a yoke suggests work. So, yeah, right? Take my yoke upon you and pull hard. No. Plow straight. Learn from me. So the yoke, what's that about then? I think it has to do with joining God in his purposes, joining Jesus in his purposes for our life. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me. And then he says, I think this is a statement that makes learning from him quite attractive, to me anyway. For I am gentle and humble in heart. Have you ever had a teacher who was not gentle and not humble in heart? It's kind of hard to learn from those folks. The teachers that I have most respected in my lifetime, and whole educational process, everything from the traditional and institutional to informal to just the very informal people I learn from. I learn best from people who are gentle and humble in heart. But I do know this: gentle people do not withhold hard truths about me from me. They tell me but they say it in a gentle way. And the humble heart. Somebody has a humble heart. It invites my own humility. Jesus said, I'm gentle and I have a humble heart. And then he says, and you will find rest for your soul. So he gives us rest, and he says, you'll find rest. All right, so I see a little process here. He gives us rest when and through our taking his yoke upon us and learning from him. So the rest for my soul. If I have rest for my soul, well, let's take it in the other direction. If I have unrest in my soul, any number of things you can do to my body that will not make that unrest go away. Now I can dull it with a variety of things: entertainment, alcohol, drugs, sex. Pick your poison, but it doesn't make it go away. It doesn't bring true rest in my soul. The things that bring rest to my soul, rest in my soul is the product of peace. It's not the other way around. Rest brings peace. No, peace brings rest. And the only way I know of for any of us, I know this from my own life's experience, the only way that I can have that peace is through the grace of God. What really the whole yoke and learning and finding rest for my soul, this is all about what grace does for us. I can go a long time on this idea, but I'll only go this far today. When I humble myself, I open myself up to experience and receive God's grace. And when God's grace comes, it brings peace. If I needed to give a chapter and verse, I would go to all of Paul's epistles. Within the first couple of sentences of every one of them, he connects grace and peace. And the saying is, grace and peace to you. And I think it's significant that he doesn't say peace and grace. I think he says grace and peace because that's how it works. When I connect when I open my heart, my life to God's grace in humility, it will bring peace. Is this instantaneous? No, not necessarily. Sometimes his peace, it takes a while for it to calm the sea of doubt and frustration and confusion and fear. But it is his grace that brings peace. Take my yoke, Jesus says. I'm going to call that a yoke of grace. And learn from me. Oh, Jesus, teach me. Teach me how to model you. How to humble myself and experience your grace, which brings peace. Well, it's enough for today. I'll see you next time on So Care with Stevie.